is going on, everybody, and welcome into our Week 8 Snake Draft live Q&A here on the FanDuel Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope pages. Happy Halloween, everyone. We're going to get you set for week number 8 and do a Snake Draft live on air here to get you set for this Week 8 main slate. My name is Jim Sadas. I am a senior writer and analyst for numberFire.com, joined here, as always, by JJ Zachariason and Burt Macklin of the FBI to break down week number 8. JJ is the editor-in-chief. JJ, you're just the same. I see no difference in you. Brandon looks a little bit different because he's not wearing a hat. That's the main difference that's notable here, I think.
Yeah, I look identical because I'm still a monkey.
Yes. JJ, the editor-in-chief of numberFire and FanDuel. How are you feeling heading into week number 8?
You guys are now on top of the leaderboard with 3 wins apiece. I still only have my 1. Luckily, I at least have 1. But I really, truly think that this might be the most difficult / annoying slate that we have dealt with all season long.
Yeah. We talked about that on the Heat Check yesterday, too, because, there are a lot of factors that just make things kind of risky. And Brandon, you were the one who brought this up most, is that there are paths to failure in every game on this slate. So this is Brandon Gadula, managing editor of numberFire.com. And it's not fun when you can think of high percentage ways for all these games to come up short of expectations.
Yeah, a lot of it is weather, specifically wind for a lot of these games. But there are other games with good defenses like Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Seattle and the 49ers play, combined, it's the worst combined pace matchup. But honestly, that game is looking so good compared to the others that I'm trying to figure out ways to get access to it in the snake draft. But yeah, every game has some pretty big red flag this week.
So you're saying JaMychal Hasty is the 101 this week. That's what you're saying, right?
That is what I was getting at.
Tevin Coleman season, boys. Tevin Coleman season.
Poor JaMychal Hasty. Poor Jerick McKinnon. These guys can't catch a break. I'm quite sad about it personally. But I could use JaMychal Hasty in a Dynasty League where I just traded away everyone. So Tevin, rest up, baby. Rest up. That was what I would say there. As you can see, we have a countdown timer right above JJ's head here, counting down to when we're going to give away a ticket into the FanDuel Sunday Million for week number 8. If you want to get yourself entered, go to the description over on the YouTube page. The description has a link to enter. You click that link. You will enter your email, and we're going to do a drawing to decide who wins that at 3:45. So you still have about 12 minutes to enter. Get those entries in. You could turn a free entry into $1 million. So nothing to lose here. Get those entries in by going to the description over on YouTube for this episode for today and get those entries in within the next 12 minutes for a shot at $1 million on Sunday. Okay, so let's take a look at this slate here before we do the draft. And I'm going to start with you, Brandon, because I think the big dilemma is, where do you see the tiers at running back? I think that there are 4, maybe 5 running backs at the top, depending on how you feel about Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook, officially questionable for Sunday, but it seems like all signs are pointing to him being a go for this game. So how are you viewing the running back landscape here for this snake draft specifically?
For the snake draft, I think it's either a top 3 or top 4. With Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Kareem Hunt, and then Jamal Williams with Aaron Jones out. I think that's the top 4. And then there is a drop to Dalvin Cook because we don't know. Obviously, if we get word that Dalvin Cook is good, by Sunday, and we're certain about it, then for a salary cap format, it's a lot different. But drafting right now, I'm a little nervous about Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I still feel pretty good about him, and I'm not, personally, I'm willing to take him, but I think that caution's probably not a bad strategy.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing. You can't take a 0 in this and win.
Right, exactly. What about you, JJ? What do you think about Dalvin Cook here, given what we know here on Friday afternoon?
Yeah, I think I would agree with Brandon in the way that he is looking at things from a rankings perspective. I think that you can maybe make the case. So if Dalvin were 100%, and we knew he was playing, I think that he would be ahead of Jamal and maybe even ahead of Kareem Hunt too. But given the question marks, I think that we're looking at him being probably, depending on your risk tolerance, I think that he's the 105 plus in this draft, or I guess not 105, but the 5th pick.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too. I think that like it's partly because of his situation, but also because I just feel really good about Jamal Williams, who would probably be number 4 on that list. Jamal Williams, no Aaron Jones this week. That has already been confirmed. And last week, Jamal Williams had an amazing workload. He's 87% of the snaps. He had, I think, 19 carries and 5 targets, and that's disgusting in a game that, despite high winds, has a really high total. And the wind, the other thing that's kind of impacting that game as well and impacting other games, we got wind in Cincinnati versus Tennessee. There is wind for Green Bay versus Minnesota, wind for Buffalo against New England. We have wind for Cleveland against Las Vegas, and New Orleans against Chicago. Chris Allen had a good post up on numberFire.com analyzing the composition of the stadiums of those games and how much wind will impact them based on that. I'd recommend going to numberFire and checking out Chris's piece, but just in general, it's worth noting that there is a lot of wind on this slate. Brandon, we had talked about the wind yesterday. In general, though, for people who didn't tune in to the Heat Check yesterday, what is your overall process when it comes to wind, specifically for quarterbacks and wide receivers?
Yeah, I mean, you went over this trend in detail, but historically, whenever there's significant wind, like 15 miles an hour plus, just over our large sample, quarterbacks, receivers don't really hit their projections. I think you said it was about 90% in some cases.
It was 90% for quarterbacks in wind speeds of 15 plus miles per hour, and wide receivers above 10 miles per hour were somewhere around like 93 or so percent.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty significant, especially, whenever you have a few windy spots and then a lot of like dome games, it makes it really easy to differentiate or like to go to those games. We have one dome game this week, and it's not that appealing for DFS because it's the Lions and Colts, and they just share the ball with everyone. So
it's very kind of them. Yeah,
I think you have to lower all these players in windy games. So really, what that kind of does is again elevates that Seattle San Francisco game to the top for me.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the key was lowering those players, but not crossing them off. We still saw players post big games in high winds. It's very possible. It's just like important. I think the baselines we talked about was lowering quarterbacks 7 to 10% and lowering wide receivers about 5%, and running backs mostly a wash because their floor goes up, their ceiling comes down a bit, and I think that's the way to view them there. All right, are we ready to start this snake draft off?
Let's do it. I'm about to enter.
Right. Perfect. So we'll pull this up here as JJ enters. 3-person snake draft over on FanDuel.com.
Brandon gets the 101.
Okay, so Brandon will be drafting first. Which means you're not going to get 2 of those top 5 running backs.
Unless Dalvin falls, which doesn't sound like you will.
Yeah, it's looking like I'm probably going to be the one with him.
I feel really good about my slot because it means if we feel good about 4 running backs, I get 2 out of those 4. And I don't care that much about the ranking of the top 3-ish. So I honestly feel pretty good on my draft slot here.
Yeah, now I got to figure out. Derrick Henry's going to be the 101 for me.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to do at the turn. I'm already getting a little anxious.
No better way to live your Friday than
you guys didn't want the 101, did you?
But I didn't.
On Slack at 2:30 today. I was like, I don't want the 101. So
yeah,
have fun. Enjoy.
All right,
so we are underway.
Derrick Henry's the 101.
Okay, I agree. Your thought process behind Henry?
Just the rushing volume. I usually am lower on Henry in salary cap formats whenever we can pick anybody, but if you're getting guaranteed volume in one of the best games of the slate, Cincinnati not a worrisome rush defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I would take that every time. So JJ, you went Kamara. I think that was the right choice there. Given Dalvin's situation, I think I would have gone Dalvin had he been fully healthy, but I think that shakiness made Kamara the right choice. Was there any hesitance for you in going Kamara there?
No, I think that I'm a little bit higher on Kamara than you guys are this week too. Just, I don't like that there's wind in that game either, because I think that, it's a scoring environment that's not great to begin with, but then on top of that, it could be even worse because of the wind. But I still think that anyone with his kind of usage as a receiver and ground game usage, obviously, has a high ceiling each and every week, no matter the matchup. Matchup itself isn't great. Chicago's been top 5-ish against running backs, according to adjusted fantasy points allowed. But yeah, that's the direction that I ended up going in. So I'm back on the clock. Brandon takes Devontae Adams and Jonathan Taylor. I probably would have gone Jonathan Taylor, but yeah. I'm gonna do something that we don't often do.
Quarterback.
I think I'm gonna go with Russ here.
I almost took Russ. I won't lie.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Russ. I think it's the safest option at the position. As Brandon alluded to, it's the one game that you don't really have to worry about the weather as much.
Right.
And so right now on Friday, I'm going early round quarterback. I'm a fraud.
I like it. Okay. Violating the norms of the late round QB handle. I'm going to go 2 wide receivers here. The first one being DK Metcalf in that game against San Francisco. The second one being Keenan Allen. I think that Keenan Allen's salary is like outrageous.
Jim put Keenan Allen's salary like 9,500.
No, 85. Come on,
85.
Don't get too crazy here. Don't get it twisted. $8,500. He's 74. I think that he's like objectively like one of the top receivers on this slate. So I'm going to take him in this snake draft because why not?
I'm gonna stack Russ then and hope that he can continue the magic with Lockett.
Poor Brandon's having a rough
yeah,
go
this is a tough draw this week.
I do love DK this week though.
I do too. Yeah.
You know that this is going to be the monster game that DK has after last week, and
I wish he'd had it last week, but I'll take it this week too.
Yeah.
All
right, Brandon, you got 7 seconds. What you doing here?
I hate this, but I'm going to go with Josh Jacobs.
Okay, that works.
Yeah, sure it does. I hate this team. So I'm thinking possibly quarterback here, but
yeah.
I think there are 2 viable quarterbacks left among in this format.
Yeah.
I want some exposure to that game I like, and I'm going to go with George Kittle.
Okay, I like that. 30% target share or so. That can always work regardless of position. So I dig that.
So of the games that have wind right now, the one that has the least wind but still a lot of wind is the Cincinnati-Tennessee game.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to lean and go with AJ Brown with my next pick.
Okay. I think that's probably the right pick. I would have probably leaned that way as well.
Had I not had Derrick Henry, I would have went AJ Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I need a quarterback here. I'm going to go with the guy in the more competitive game, and that's Lamar Jackson. I know the matchup is crazy, crazy tough, but Lamar Jackson is crazy, crazy good. So I don't care that much. I'll go Lamar there. And then I need a wide receiver or a running back. That's brutal. I'm going to go Tyreek Hill. I don't like the game environment for Hill in that game against the Jets, but I just think that I kind of need the floor that he has, and it's still possible for him to go off. It's just tougher in a game where I don't expect the Jets to do literally anything.
I'm in a tough spot. I ideally would have gone wide receiver here, but I don't mind Gio Bernard in this spot, and I can also stack that game a little bit with AJ Brown, so I'm going to go with Gio Bernard with my last pick.
All right, Brandon, what you got here for your final pick?
I'm just going to do it. Go with Mahomes. I might get 3/4 of him.
Yeah.
But I think 3/4 of Patrick Mahomes against the Jets is viable. I would have, if it wasn't Mahomes, I would have considered Ryan Tannehill or Joe Burrow, and I can't really get myself to go.
Well, that says a lot about the quarterback landscape for this week. Is like that's how far things fall off after those top 2 or 3 guys. So Brandon, numberFire seems to like your team by a wide margin the most. 108.63, your projection. So talk me through this team. What were the toughest decisions you had to make in drafting this team?
Pretty much everything, honestly. Derrick Henry was a no-brainer. But then from there, all of the running backs we liked were gone. So I had to figure out, do I just let running backs slide? Hope you guys don't take any more. I didn't really want to risk it. I went Devontae first, even though the win concerns, but I think the volume is still going to be there. And it's really hard to worry about Devontae too much. Yeah. But then I went Jonathan Taylor. The game is indoors. Could be without Ryan Kelly. I don't really love Jonathan Taylor, but I think it's at least somewhat of a safe pick. And then from there, I was kind of scrambling, I won't lie. I really like the 49ers Seahawks game, and I wanted some exposure. JJ took Tyler Lockett right before that. I was going to go Lockett Kittle stack, but I didn't get that, so I just went with George Kittle. And again, similar thinking with Josh Jacobs as Jonathan Taylor, just kind of take what volume I can get and hope for the best.
volume is never a bad thing. I think that's probably the right way to play things, especially in a snake draft like this, where we're not spending $7,800 in the salary for Josh Jacobs. We're just drafting him. I think that's pretty helpful there. So I think that was the right call on your part. Let's go to you, JJ. You got Russell Wilson stacked up with Tyler Lockett. You also have AJ Brown stacked with Giovanni Bernard. What was the toughest decisions for you within this draft?
The first two picks, I think, were pretty straightforward with Kamara and Dalvin Cook. And then I think that the real pivot point for me was to take the early round quarterback and go with Russ, who, again, I just felt the best of among all quarterbacks. I thought he was in his own tier. So, I think that's really the way that we have to approach these snake drafts, is to tier your guys and kind of go from there. So, it took Russ, and then you sniped me with DK Metcalf. I would have liked to have Metcalf over Tyler Lockett.
Okay.
But got Lockett. Hopefully it's a high-scoring game. Hopefully he still gets his. The thing with Tyler Lockett is he just, we've seen him have these blow-up games and then disappear a little bit. So there's a little bit of worry there that Lockett doesn't come through after a big performance. And then with AJ Brown, I just saw him as the best player that was left. And again, that game right now has the best wind conditions, even though they're still like 16, 17 miles an hour projected. Yeah. But I also like that game environment probably more than the other games that are sort of in the having the wind issues. Whether that's the Cleveland Vegas game or obviously the Chicago game, or even the Minnesota Green Bay game. I think that you can make an argument that the Cincinnati Tennessee game is just has the potential to be a really nice high scoring game. So I went with AJ Brown there, who's been incredibly efficient already since coming back from his injury. And then I kind of just wanted to stack it a little bit. I think I could have gone with in a lot of directions with that last pick. But to me, Gio Bernard is going to give you a really nice stable floor. And this is a three-man game. So, I just decided to stack that game and kind of go from there.
I ignored floor and went Tyreek Hill as opposed to going with the running back with my final selection. I feel like I probably should have gone with a running back there, or maybe a steadier receiver, a stacked Marquise Brown with Lamar Jackson. But regardless, I do like the floor with him just because we know every target will be efficient against the Jets. My question is, how many will there be, given that the Chiefs could blast them? But I feel good about the rest of the team here, especially the running backs, Kareem Hunt and Jamal Williams. I think the targets there should be really good. I love the target volume for Keenan Allen. I feel good about Lamar because I expect that game to be competitive, and the Ravens haven't played really any competitive games so far this year. They have run 88 plays in the second half this year at the game within 2 scores. That is fewer than every team except the Jets. Only one other team has run fewer than 110. So I just think this game will be close, and I think that despite the matchup is enough to make Lamar my number 2 quarterback. I would have Russ above Lamar Jackson, and I think that Russ is only $400 more. I'd rather have Russ, but Lamar, I think number 2 for me, all things considered, for this week.
It's not like the Steelers, the Steelers front is obviously, probably the toughest in the league, and he's going to face a lot of pressure, but the Steelers have been beat via the pass. So if Lamar's on in that game, it's really easy to see a scenario where he really comes through.
Yeah, and Marquise Brown, I think, on FanDuel, where he's $5,900, phenomenal option, just not quite for the snake draft, where the floor becomes a bigger concern. Let's dive into some questions here via the FanDuel YouTube page. Actually, I think we have the announcement on the winner here, so we can grab that first. And the winner of the FanDuel Sunday Million ticket from the drawing for this week, for Week 8 in the FanDuel Sunday Million, our winner is Oliver, buddy. Oliver, the guy who sabotaged our snake draft a couple weeks ago. Oliver.
Hey, he deserves it. He deserves it after that move.
Oliver, we said that it was a great troll, and this is your reward. You've won the ticket into the FanDuel Sunday Million. Congratulations, Oliver. I hope it goes to good use. Congratulations, Oliver. You earned that ticket, my guy. First question from YouTube. It's not the first question, but I did want to ask you this one, Brandon. It does seem pretty critical. Tanika says, great costumes, guys. Can Brandon arrest Matt Rule so DJ Moore can get the ball more?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, watching DJ Moore, like Troy Aikman said when DJ Moore had 2 targets, he's like, I want to point out, what Atlanta's doing to stop DJ Moore, but they're not really doing anything. And then DJ Moore gets his targets on the final drive. Just looks amazing. I don't know. But, yeah, I should probably go make an arrest.
Yeah, well, we'll let you do that. We'll continue here with the questions. Going with Joey first. He wants a player for his bye week. So pick one here, JJ. Denzel Mims, Michael Gallup, Demarcus Robinson, oh boy, Nelson Aguilar, Hunter Renfrow, or Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
I'm going with Denzel Mims. Really, it's the result of, I mean, look, the matchup's not amazing. Kansas City actually has a decent secondary. But, this is the result of hopeful volume. I mean, hopefully the Jets don't run like 50 plays in this game, which is always possible with them. But, it should be a negative game script. Jamison Crowder, I believe, is out in this game again. So Braxton Berrios will be probably his biggest competition there in the slot. Mims looked good last week, and he, in the first half of that game, he got all of his production. He had 4 catches for 42 yards. I don't mind him as like a deeper flex play this week.
He got all the production in the first half because the Jets had, I think,
they had like,
yards.
they ran like 14 plays in the second half. So
they had I think 4 verts. Charles McDonald on Twitter mentioned this. I think their first play in the second half was a 13-yard gain, and then they lost 4 yards the rest of the half. So it's pretty rough. But Denzel Mims is the one guy there you can kind of trust. Brandon, this one's for you from the Aircoos. He's stacking up the 49ers game in a tournament with Kittle, Aiyuk, Jimmy G, but doesn't like his running backs. He has Jonathan Taylor and Darrell Henderson. Would you try to find a different value back from those two, or are you okay with Taylor and Henderson?
I can see the case for Taylor. I'm less on Henderson just because of the way that they share the ball. I don't actually know. Henderson's 6,100. I would go down to Myles Gaskin, honestly. This week, Gaskin is the one standout play to me. And then keep an eye on the Seattle situation. See what value is there come Sunday.
Yeah, I think that Gaskin at $5,700, an amazing option. Gio Bernard at 59. I think I'd actually put Gaskin higher. I don't know. I might just be too high on Gaskin. It depends on if Jordan Howard plays, because if Howard plays, it lowers Gaskin's touchdown projection. But I just like the situation. The Bengals are missing 3 offensive linemen. Their left tackle, center, and right tackle, and that's pretty gross. So I think I like Gaskin as well. Itachi says, Marquise Brown, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Adams are my wide receivers for a DFS tournament. Do you think I should upgrade Marquise Brown to a different wide receiver that has more ceiling? I don't feel comfortable with him in my lineup. I'm going to keep this one because I love Hollywood Brown this week. Yeah. I would stay there, Itachi. It's in part because I think that game will be competitive, but also because the Steelers, because they're so good against the run, have allowed more production to wide receivers this year. We saw Travis Fulgham pop him for 150. I think A.J. Brown to 150 as well. Randall Cobb had like 90 yards against them. So Marquise Brown gets a lot of volume, 27% of the overall targets and 48% of the deep targets. Itachi, I would say stick with Marquise Brown there. Kenny says he's in a quarterback pickle. After Calvin Ridley and DJ Moore burned him, needs to play the ceiling game. So JJ, if you're looking for ceiling, Joe Burrow or Jimmy G. Jimmy G ceiling, roughly 16 points. He has Tyler Boyd and George Kittle. So trying to capitalize on the stacks there. He has a stack of either guy. Would you go with Burrow or Jimmy Garoppolo there?
I think we saw last week that Joe Burrow is the guy with the ceiling. He has the rushing upside and the rushing potential. I think that the only reason you would go with Jimmy G there, I mean, who I like, I think we all think that he's fine this week. Probably less of like more of a season long play. But even still, it's a great matchup for him against Seattle. But Burrow showed us last week he has a really high ceiling. I think that scoring environment's really strong. Just watch the weather. Watch the game totals too, because as the weather changes and as we get a more concrete forecast, we're bound to see game totals change as well. So if that drops, then there's a little bit something to be scared of. But right now, I would go with Joe Burrow.
All right, Brandon, this one's for you. Kind of a strategy discussion from Keith Sims. He says, Week 8 has great matchups, but the salaries in some players are really high to create a great lineup. In his opinion, he says he wants to go low on quarterback and low on wide receiver. Brandon, are you trying to spend down at quarterback and receiver this week, or what's your overall roster construction based on the way things have broken so far?
So I think there are ways to spend down at all 4 positions, honestly. If you're going to spend down at quarterback, we just talked about Jimmy Garoppolo. He's 6,600 on FanDuel. Obviously, the ceiling isn't amazing, but I think there's a floor. Game should be competitive. He's been really good this year. But also, I mean, you can throw Ryan Tannehill in there. He's not that bad at 7,500. But I think, honestly, I'm not that high on the running backs compared to what it used to be or usually am. I love Derrick Henry, but there's no Christian McCaffrey on the slates. Like, we don't have to allocate.
There's no Mike Davis.
Like, we're not allocating 10-5 to Christian McCaffrey as like a can't miss.
Yeah.
You're a little bit more open to spend down even at running back. So I think you can spend down at quarterback and receiver this week. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I think that, and you don't even have to go all the way down to Garoppolo. Like, you can Ryan Tannehill $7,500, Justin Herbert $7,700. You've got options.
Joe Burrow.
Yeah, Joe Burrow's there too. So you've got options outside of Garoppolo. If you, like me, have concerns around his ceiling. Terry, hey, JJ, would you trade DeAndre Swift for Antonio Brown in PPRs? Other running backs are Miles Sanders, Jonathan Taylor, and Chase Edmonds. Would you do Swift for Brown in that scenario?
I mean, in a vacuum, I don't think it's a horrible trade. I say this as someone who's coming from the standpoint that I think Antonio Brown is probably being undervalued by the market. I actually think that Brown's going to step in and be fairly productive in that offense. I made the statement on my podcast on the mailbag episode today that said, from like week 10 to week 16, I wouldn't be shocked at all if Antonio Brown is the leader in target share on the Bucs. And so that's a combination of Chris Godwin being banged up, Mike Evans getting the silent treatment from Tom Brady at times this year. And really, look at AB as a whole. It's not like he was sidelined and not playing football because of his skill, right? If you don't want to take on AB because of his off the field stuff and his antics, etc., because you don't want to deal with that, totally get it from a fantasy perspective. But in a vacuum, I think that running backs usually get the edge. I'd say overall, I would probably take Swift over AB, but I think it's fine if you want to do a trade like this if you're looking for upside. Yeah,
I think that makes sense there too, and especially with the Lions, the way they use Swift is frustrating. So You can at least avoid that headache for a bit too. Brandon, for you, this is from Tanantha. High ceiling play between Preston Williams, Marvin Jones, Michael Gallup, or Denzel Mims. We talk a lot about ceiling, and it's tough for receivers to get ceiling. So between Preston Williams, Marvin Jones, Michael Gallup, and Denzel Mims, which of those players do you think has the best access to a ceiling?
Jim's probably going to fight me on this, but I think it's Mims from a sheer volume standpoint. Marv's not really involved.
See, that's why it's hard for me to fight you, because like there aren't a lot of guys with upside on that list, so it probably is Mims.
Yeah, I think it's Mims just from a sheer volume standpoint. And honestly, I've studied this a lot over the offseason. Big games really just come from like getting volume, and we should feel pretty good about Mims getting the volume. Whether he catches them is a total on conversation.
I do want to get a couple from Facebook here, so let's go to JJ quick for this one. Justin Herbert or Josh Allen this week at quarterback? Justin Herbert facing the Broncos, Josh Allen facing the Patriots in one of those weather spots. So who would you prefer between those two?
Yeah, so I think Herbert's probably safer, but I will say, if the weather looks fine in that game and Stephon Gilmore doesn't play because he now has a late week injury, I would probably go Josh Allen, honestly, in that spot. So safer play right now on Friday, Herbert, but later in the week, on Sunday when you have to make the decision, it might be Josh Allen.
And it does help too that you're probably not going to get burned with Josh Allen because the rushing is there. So you're not going to totally regret the decision. Brandon, let's go to you with this one because it is a DFS question. Josh Allen and Diggs or Jimmy Garoppolo and Brandon Aiyuk? Now, these are very different salaries, so keep that in mind. But if you're prioritizing one of those two stacks, which way do you lean between those two?
I think so it's Allen and Diggs, it was?
Allen and Diggs or Jimmy G and Aiyuk.
Like, I love Jimmy G and Brandon Aiyuk, but I think if you're stacking them, you're probably doing it for a tournament. I think that we'll get low popularity on the Bills just because they're kind of better games. I really think it's hard to go against Allen and Diggs, but because they're different salaries, it's a strange one to answer a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough because, I think it depends on how you feel about the value running backs. Like, if you love Gio Bernard, you love Myles Gaskin, then sure, go with Allen and Diggs. I think that's definitely intriguing. But if you want to get to Kareem Hunt, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, you probably want to stick with Garoppolo and Aiyuk. So I'd probably go Garoppolo and Aiyuk just because I like the high-salaried running backs a lot.
Right, that's why it was hard to answer. Yeah. I think Garoppolo and Aiyuk is a fine stack, but it just kind of builds a completely different lineup.
Yeah, exactly. Final question here. This one is from Bill because I just want to get your guys' answer on the record here. JJ, Metcalf or Lockett this week?
Metcalf.
Brandon, Metcalf or Lockett this week?
Metcalf.
Oh, what could go wrong? We're all on DK Metcalf.
See,
Lockett, guaranteed 35 points.
I hedged, though, because I have Lockett in the snake draft, so it's all good.
Oh, Bill, this means you should use Lockett. Just throwing that out there. So good luck to all you. That is all the time that we have for today on this Snake Draft Q&A. But do not forget, JJ is back with you on Sunday at noon Eastern on the FanDuel Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Periscope pages to answer your start-sit questions leading into week number 8. Make sure you're subscribed on all those channels so you get notifications as we go live every Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday. Tuesday is a waiver wire Q&A, and of course, Friday is our snake draft. JJ, appreciate the time today. Good luck to you in week 8.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Jim.
All right, Brandon, the managing editor of numberFire.com. Appreciate the time today, and good luck to you as well. Just, again, not in this snake draft.
Yeah, good luck not in the snake draft, although I don't feel great about it, but, I'll still win.
I love the confidence. That is all the time that we have for today. Big thank you to Calvin Theobald, our video producer, for running the video side of things here today. Thank you, Cal, as always, and thank you to everyone for tuning in. Good luck to you in your Week 8 lineups. We'll talk to you again next Friday. This has been the FanDuel Snake Draft Q&A.